Have you ever been drunk or high and came up with this truly amazing idea but then became sober and realized it wasn't as amazing as you thought it was? If so, what was the idea? A friend of mine called me around 3 o'clock in the morning about a fantastic, groundbreaking idea he had for getting sunburn on your feet. He wears Crocs a lot, so I was actually kinda interested. Okay. So, like, cloth or something you can put on your feet that would keep you from getting sunburn from the holes. Socks. He was describing socks. The amount of people who invented socks in this thread is too damn high. While smoking weed with some friends, I came up with an idea for a restaurant. I called it Pound Town. The idea was that all of our specials would be centered around a pound, like 16 ounces steaks and things like that. Our signature desserts would incorporate pound cake. You get the idea. I even had an idea for the commercial. It would start off with a kid in his late teens walking up and knocking on someone's front door. He suddenly stiffens up when an older man opens the door. Hi. I'm here to pick up Jenny? You must be Zach, he says somewhat sternly. Jenny's still getting ready. Come inside. She'll just be another minute. They both sit down in the living room and an awkward silence falls between them as the father eyes the young man suspiciously. So, the father says, "Where exactly are you planning on taking my daughter tonight?" The kid cracks a sly smile as he says, "I'm taking her to Pound Town." The father ridiculously nods in approval as the advertisement kicks off, showing the food and announcing the specials. To have a fast food spot that sold frozen meals already cooked. Like you can order a heated up Hot Pocket, toaster strudel, chicken pot pie, etc. That would be called Applebee's. This is a truth that burns but is still cold on the inside. Whilst high, I came up with the idea of making pens with white ink that would cover up any mistakes on white paper. Realized not only that it had been done already, but that I had one in my backpack next to where I keep the pen I used to write down the idea. I came up with that one in kindergarten. My mom then told me about whiteout law. I wanted to write them demanding partial credit because I hadn't heard of it, so had the idea too. Mom said we were out of stamps. While taking what I thought was acid and turned out to be a 25 NBOME, I was beyond confident that I had not only finally understand the truest, deepest secret of the universe, but that I had distilled the idea into an image that could be drawn out. I was certain that with that image I could remember everything about the true universal secrets when I came down. The next day I looked at the paper, and it was a line with a circle on each end, like a dumbbell. I have no idea what it means. A pot or bowl with holes in it so that you didn't have to use a wire mesh strainer to strain spaghetti. I had drawings and everything. People around me were like, "Shit, this thing is going to make millions." Next day, "Dude, that's a colander." A food truck specializing in egg rolls the size of burritos. I once thought edible tape would be a game-changer idea. For when your burrito, or huge egg roll, rips, just tape it back up with edible tape. The TV show Cheaters, except with stray cats. Candid cameras catching cats being unfaithful with other neighborhood cats and a human host interviewing the cats getting cheated on, just like the TV show. Still kinda want this to be a thing in a sober mindset. But it's catching cats being unfaithful to their human owners by being fed by a neighbor who thinks they are a stray. Running for my local school board. I had a lot of issues with the way the education works in our country and believed the best way to fix the system was by running an honest campaign and promising to fight for the change that would help kids learn better. Ultimately, I sobered up and realized at the time, unemployed, stoned 24-year-old with no kids was not the best candidate. I'd vote for the unemployed guy who was pissed off at the shitty education he received. The man has an axe to grind. My niece drunk texted me and went on about her idea for party popper tampons. She wanted to make tampons that shot out string and confetti when you pulled the string. It was all something about women celebrating their freedom and vaginas. It was a very confusing 2 a.m. series of texts when she was just supposed to let me know she made it home safe from her night out. King Kong but with a giraffe. They said ideas that aren't still great when you sober up though. Sugar bags. Like tea bags but for sugar. Tea and 2 sugars? 1 tea bag, 2 sugar bags. As we were stoned as fuck, my cousin holding up an emptied tea bag filled with sugar and me trying to carefully tie it back up with a piece of cotton, my cousin disappointingly says, "Sugar cubes. What if you made pre-sugared tea bags? I have seen tea bags with sugar and powdered milk already in them." I got high one time and thought of a great business idea where everyone pays money to a pot and one person wins it all. Turns out the lottery already exists. I thought it would be practical if you would have a tag with your address written on it attached to your keys, so if you ever lost them they can be sent back. Seemed brilliant to me. Thieves might enjoy this idea as well. My bank does something cool that solves that problem. A keychain with a dog tag that has a specific code that the bank registers to your address. If you lose your keys, anyone who sees them can throw them in a mailbox and they'll be sent back to you. A thing you put on the laptop charger thing that gets hot, which keeps your cheese dip hot. My friend is a lawyer and when he was in law school did a summer internship to Ghana studying international law. We were like 2 blunts deep and he came up with the brilliant idea to make chairs in Ghana because everyone he saw there was just sitting on the ground. He was convinced we could have made a fortune selling chairs. In my first year of engineering in uni, one of the design projects was to come up with a chair made of cardboard. The idea was to make a chair supportive and comfortable enough, whilst also being easy to assemble by cutting out shapes on a large piece of cardboard so as to keep the shipping costs low. The winning design was supposed to be implemented, and if my memory serves correctly, the initial pilot program was going to be for a small community in Ghana. I had this idea that the taken films should each focus on a different set of skills. Like Liam Neeson could be an amazing chef in Taken 2, and perhaps a postman in Taken 3. Honestly, this sounds like a much better version of what we got. But I still want it to involve saving a kidnapped person somehow. X-Acto spoon. It is an X-Acto knife, only a spoon. One time I woke up in the middle of the night with an idea. A revolutionary idea. Something I needed to write down as fast as possible so I wouldn't forget. So I wrote it down and went back to sleep. I woke up, looked at the piece of paper, and all it said was, Pennzoil Mini Wheats. I've never quite figured out what I was thinking. Maybe it was like Tide Pods for changing your oil? Instead of dealing with messy bottles and funnels, just pop a handful of oil pods in to confuse the hell out of anyone who tries disassembling your motor to unseize it. My notes app is full of liquor, weed-soaked epiphanies and revelations from my younger years. My favorite reads, any boy that has the pineapple is a good boy. Quote, correct. Juber. Uber for Orthodox Jews. You would prearrange when the Uber would come get you to go to synagogue, and you wouldn't have to open doors, walk, etc. Turn signals on grocery carts. I once had the idea to have 2 left turn signals on a car. One for a regular left turn, and a different one to indicate you were going to do a U-turn. I have no idea why this made so much sense at the time, but for the rest of that night I legit thought I was a genius. I've always said that cars should have brake lights on the back and the front so when I have to quickly stop I can see if the car behind me noticed and is also using their brakes. When I did shrooms, I came up with the absolutely genius idea that NASA should employ young children and send them to space for missions because they have more natural curiosity and aren't jaded yet by adulthood, and they might notice things that a more experienced astronaut would miss because they'll look from a different perspective. I was convinced I needed to email NASA right away and tell them about my brilliant epiphany. They also have less weight, saving expensive fuel. I had this idea for a movie in a similar vein of Cabin in the Woods, where these people move into a haunted house. Except the plot is from the antagonist's perspective, where the ghosts haunting the house treat it like a job, and have interviews in front of a camera, reality show style, venting about how tedious the little aspects of the job are. The premise was this ghost had reluctantly picked up and followed this family to this new house in order to keep haunting them, and inadvertently stepped on another ghost's jurisdiction, and they'd bicker about who haunts who, antics ensue. I realize now that this is more or less just what we do in the shadows. Damn you, Taika. My grand idea was to put caramelized onions in my hamburger helper. Yeah, it was good but not as mind-blowing as I thought it would be when I was high as a kite. Got really high and had the sudden realization that things that are lighter than air are the things that float. I wondered, there's more than just helium that's lighter than air contents, how come we don't have other ways to fill balloons and stuff? Then my friend goes, ever heard of the Hindenburg dumbass? I was thinking that kids these days need more time on the road to be better drivers, so maybe Uber should partner with driving education groups and subsidize them or pay the kids in college bonds or whatever. Yeah, maybe hiring a bunch of terrible drivers for your taxi services isn't such a great idea. Lol, this is great. Hi, my name's Kyle, I'm 14, this is my mom, so where y'all headed today? When a football match goes into extra time, they should add a second ball. If it gets to half-time without anyone scoring, they add a third ball. I'm actually not sure this idea is a bad one. Bobby, you can't solve every problem using pinball logic. No, but Tommy can. Once while high, my friends came up with an online call center for people who have anxiety while high to call. It was named TripAdvisor.